The dramatic fate of the dog, which will be discussed below, will bring tears to the eyes of a sensitive reader more than once. Cassandra, this name was chosen for an unusually cute-looking, which is unusual for fighting breeds, pit bull terrier. Her once happy life took a sharp turn and another new year for Cassandra began with an unpleasant event. On the eve of the New Year's celebration, the family with whom the heroine of this story has lived all her life was moving to a new house. Some of the unnecessary items, as well as the garbage collected during the collection, were sent to the landfill, but who would have thought that among the many objects that have served their time, there would also be a loyal friend. With the same ease with which people say goodbye to things that have lost their value, the dog was left to fend for itself. During the training camp, Cassandra, seeing the troubles and feeling the pre-holiday mood of her relatives, took over the general joy and ran around the house, playing and frolicking. Finally, all the things were packed, and the garbage was left in a tank near the house. And, without inviting the once beloved four-legged friend into the car, the head of the family and the rest of the household boarded the car and left without even saying goodbye. How is that? Maybe they'll come back for her now. Maybe they're about to notice the absence of a tailed friend and, reproaching themselves for this unforgivable forgetfulness, rush back and take her away. They will shower the dog, who was delighted with their return, with kisses and apologies, and after arriving together in a new house, they will thank you for the long wait with a good portion of delicious food. But no. Cassandra waits in vain for her friends. Tired of the long wait and anxiety, she tried to break into the closed house. After futile attempts to return to a cozy home, the smart pit bull terrier went to the things at the trash can and took out a blanket that kept the smell of his relatives. This large piece of soft cloth still preserves the scent of its beloved owners. Now the former ones. Those who betrayed the loyalty and selfless love of someone whose ancestors have been tamed since time immemorial and for whom a person should still be responsible. The realization of the loss came after long hours of waiting. What will become of her now? There is a warm blanket left in memory of the former happy life. Unable to return to her native home and return the owners, Cassandra curled up and remained lying on the edge of the road in the open air. Hope glimmered in the dog's heart. A man's servant and friend, his faithful guard and companion, cannot easily come to terms with the thought of betraying the one with whom he has shared shelter and a table for several millennia. And Cassandra waited patiently, not straying far and for a long time from her rookery, but a chance meeting changed the fate of a dog who does not want to put up with the thought of the cruelty of the human heart. Having seen an unusual picture, a purebred dog at the edge of the road, lying listlessly on a large blanket and not reacting to passing vehicles and passing people, Ekaterina could not indifferently forget about this episode. The girl was not just a passerby, one of those who loves animals. She took a direct part in the lives of our younger brothers, being one of the organizers of the dog rescue service operating in several large cities. It was not only the unusual situation that attracted the girl's attention, but also the fact that the rain did not force the dog to leave the makeshift couch and go into hiding, escaping from the streams of water pouring from the sky. Ekaterina found Cassandra soaked through on an equally wet blanket a few hours later. Returning to her home, this heartbreaking scene made the girl's heart contract. It was clear that a tragic event had happened in the dog's life and she needed help. Ekaterina learned from people living near the location of the pit bull terrier that the family who left the dog in the open air, without water and food. And the blanket, as the only consolation and memory of the owners, the dog took itself out of the pile of garbage left by people when moving. Cassandra's devotion amazed the girl. And it was clear that the situation needed to be changed. And judging by the dog's behavior and tenacity, it will not be easy to do this. But the love for our younger brothers gave Ekaterina confidence that she would be able to change the life of a devoted dog for the better. Experienced in working with animals, the girl understood that the work would be difficult. This became obvious when the first attempts to establish contact with the faithful former owners of the pit bull terrier ended unsuccessfully. The dog simply ran away, noticing the approach of a stranger to her. And she always returned to her blanket, clinging to it as the last hope of returning to her former happy life. Ekaterina solemnly promised herself that she would return the dog to a happy life next to a loving man who would never betray and would always take care of his friend. And the hard work of restoring people's trust has begun. Traumatized by betrayal, the dog refused to be persuaded and stubbornly refused to make contact, ignoring kind words and treats. She ran away as soon as she noticed a stranger approaching her, even if Ekaterina had food in her hands. Cassandra did not touch the food until she was sure that there were no outside observers. To lure the stubborn pit bull to her, fortunately, the girl lived nearby. Catherine had to go to a trick. Every time Cassandra ran away, Ekaterina moved the blanket in the direction of her house, leaving a bowl of food next to the couch. Whether the dog figured out this maneuver or not, she returned to the rookery every time. Without noticing, or pretending not to notice, the movement of his property. As soon as the girl tried to get closer, everything was repeated from the beginning. The pit bull terrier retreated to a safe distance. The cunning plan was successful. The dog, who had been starving for several days, ended up at Catherine's house. Now it was important not to spoil the work done and not scare away the newly emerging trust in a person. Catherine, using the same trick with a bait, lured the wary Cassandra to her house and breathed a sigh of relief. Now the dog was safe, again under the protection of a human. Rain, hunger and cold no longer posed a threat to the dog. Abandoned by its former owners to the mercy of fate, the next task was to completely restore the dog's trust in man. But one peculiarity in the dog's behavior made it extremely difficult. Cassandra refused to eat in front of the girl. Only when she was alone would she start eating. Distrust of people was manifested not only in the refusal to accept treats and eat them in front of others. The dog, avoiding eye contact with a person, did not give the slightest signals of friendliness and trust, never wagging his tail during his stay in Catherine's house. But the girl, despite the fact that her four-legged guest tried not to let anyone near her and shrank into a ball every time someone approached her, was able to see another wound, a trace of the sad fate of an abandoned animal. In addition to the mental trauma, a deep injury was found on the dog's body. There was a deep wound on the neck, partially hidden by the left collar. The girl has learned well over a long time of working with animals to recognize the condition of the wards, and it became clear to her that the problem is serious, requiring urgent intervention by an experienced doctor. Cassandra was lured into a car and taken to a veterinary clinic. An extensive wound that had begun to inflame could be about to provoke blood poisoning. And Catherine, with a heavy heart, had to give consent to the operation under anesthesia. Doctors named several causes of deep tissue damage. It could have been a brutal street fight with other dogs while searching for food. But other assumptions have been put forward, and one of them is the abuse of a dog that could be kept on a short chain that squeezes the neck for a long time. Anyway, Cassandra had to have surgery. And everything went as well as possible thanks to the diligence of competent doctors and the selfless care of the girl who sheltered the dog. Ekaterina visited the patient daily, pampering her with dog treats and bestowing love and affection. Catherine's next task was to find new, loving hosts. The girl temporarily placed Cassandra in a good shelter. Continuing to visit her ward, she saw how the pit bull began to come to life in the company of other relatives, and one day, a four-legged friend, whose fate had treated her so mercilessly, met Catherine with the influence of a tale. The girl was happy. Her work to restore the mental health of a dog traumatized by human betrayal gave the first fruit. Now she had to find a loving family for Cassandra. Social media posts helped to do this. In a touching story, Ekaterina described the story of a sweet, devoted pit bull terrier, paying special attention to his loyalty and strong character, and fate took another sharp turn, which led to the happy conclusion of this sad story. A note about a faithful friend abandoned by a man was read by a man whose family had recently experienced a loss. Lucky's faithful friend and companion, the same pit bull, with the same color and devoted heart, died of old age. The young son of a man, who remained paralyzed after a serious illness and could not move independently, was especially worried about the loss of a pet. Bill, that was the name of the head of the family, showed Cassandra's photo to his son Johnny. The sad eyes of the sick boy, bedridden and deprived of the joy of communicating with the playful Lucky, lit up with joy. It became clear to everyone that the appearance of a new-tailed family member would be a joy and salvation for everyone, both Johnny, who was not showing any improvement in his health, and Cassandra, who was looking for loving owners. Photos and videos posted on the social network clearly demonstrated the similarity in appearance and habits of the new dog, which could make up for the loss of the beloved Lucky. Meanwhile, the impact of the psychological trauma on Cassandra, who remained in the shelter, became less and less noticeable. The dog became more and more active. The sad expression of the muzzle was replaced by calm confidence in the friendly attitude of others towards her. Increasingly, she joined the games of other dogs living with her at the shelter. The work of the kennel staff and Ekaterina, who took a lively part in the fate of the dog, was rewarded with the cheerful barking of a formidable-looking and at the same time cute pet. At the time when Bill made the final decision that a dog looking for new owners should definitely become a member of their family, Cassandra had already moved from the shelter to Catherine's house. Now she was in stark contrast to the unfortunate animal. She had first entered the girl's house with a blanket that held memories of her former owners. Having arranged a meeting and taking his son with him, Bill went to Catherine's house in order to pick up and surround with love and care the dog already loved by the boy and the rest of his family. Johnny remained in the car in excitement, and his father entered the house and returned a short time later, leading a dog ready for a new life, one-in-one, similar to the old man Lucky. The scene that passers-by watched through the windows and the open car door touched literally all the adults and children who had the pleasure of watching Johnny and Cassandra meet. As old friends who had not seen each other for a long time, they were as happy as possible to meet. A lively pit bull rushed into the face of a boy, laughing and crying with happiness at the same time, licking him and continuously yelping and barking. A few months later, Catherine received a letter from this family. Bill wrote that Cassandra had not only settled in perfectly with them and pleased everyone with her vivacity, excellent character and dedication, but also caused improvements in Johnny's health. The boy, whom the dog tirelessly pulled after him, inviting him to play together, began to gradually get to his feet and now moves well almost independently. So the tragic event in Cassandra's life and the indifference of people led not only to great happy changes in her fate, but also in the fate of the people who sheltered her.